Hello, race fans, and welcome to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway here in, I believe it is Concord, New Hampshire. I am Michael Norman, the voice of the Budweiser All-Pro Series, here for race number 16 of 30 in the Budweiser All-Pro Series season. Halfway through the season, and only 5 races, including this one, away from the playoff start here today. I'm being joined up in the booth here by Seth Cole. Seth, thanks for joining me up here, and congratulations on your win last week, man.
Yeah, I mean, important to get that win for sure. I mean, we're in the home stretch, as you said. There's only a limited number of races, 5 in total, including today, until we put that playoff grid together. And, we've got ourselves, it's about, 11 drivers right now that have clinched themselves spots in the playoffs, as long as they stay up there in points, but, that have gotten in via win. We're really narrowing it down to the drivers that are able to make it in via points, and it's not outside the realm of the possibility to say that in these last 5 races we may have 5 more different race winners. So the pressure is on for a lot of these drivers that have had good consistent seasons but have not yet gotten that elusive checkered flag. We'll see if any of them are able to step up here today, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the 5 drivers right now currently in on points, they're all up inside the top 10 in overall standing. So if you're outside the top 10 in points and you don't have a win, boy, you got a long road to toe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be just that essential. And just like you said, Seth, we got the points here. I mean, Madeline Crenshaw, I guess you could say a 24. Well, I can't really say 24 because this is still regular season, whether you have a win or not. So she's got a 17-point gap over Anthony McCurry here in our Daytona 500 winner, who, while McCurry may be starting dead last in this race, he seems to be still getting pretty good finishes climbing up through the field and everything. I mean, if you look about it, he's got an average finish position of about 17.47.
But today's going to be, I think, his toughest task, Michael, because New Hampshire is not necessarily a track where you're able to have a strong enough car to make passes and work your way to the front. New Hampshire is the epitome of a rhythm track because there's not a whole lot of banking going into the corners. It's a super heavy braking zones when you go into 1 and 3. And more often than not, somebody's going to have the lane you want going into one of those particular corners. A lot of times drivers will end up over driving corners, slide up the racetrack. They lose a lot of positions as a result. I think maybe here in these final 5 races, this may be the one track where track position is going to be ultimately important. And so you'll have to, I think, look at some of the guys that are starting up here towards the front to maybe be a race winner, unless we go into a long green flag run. Then pit road and pit road strategy could help those drivers mid-pack to the rear of the field on the starting grid.
I completely agree. We have 11 drivers who have with wins that are currently locked into the playoffs, being above that top of the 25th in point cut line there. And we also have 2 that are outside the top 25 whose wins currently are not counting, and that could play a big factor with, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the playoff points that are in via just points, and should those two drivers get inside the top 25 in points, that'll just make it down to 3.
And they're not that far back either. Allie Rain is only 14 points behind that 25th in the standings cut line, and only 20 points back is William Brock. It's conceivable that even here today, both of them could be up above that cut line, and as you said, whittle it down from 5 drivers pointing their way into 3. And if we have a different race winner go to victory lane here today, that would leave it at 2 drivers that could point their way in with only 4 races left.
Absolutely. It's going to make these last couple of races very, very exciting to watch. We're going to go trackside, get the opening ceremonies, and be right back with our starting grid.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, the moment has arrived. Round 2 of the round of 16 of the playoffs. Here to give the command to start engines, please welcome your Grand Marshal, Chief Technology Officer for ISM Connect, Mark Del Vecchio.
Drivers, start your engines!
Engines are fired here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and Seth, it's going to be a great race. He's got 61 laps broken down into 3 stages of 20. First stage 20, second stage 20, the last stage 21. No cautions in between stages, how I feel like it should be in real life, but I digress. And not only that, but we've got 38 drivers on a very, very, very tough racetrack.
Let's just eliminate the stages, then we won't be having this conversation. But nonetheless, I agree with you on that race through the stages. It's interesting you bring up the fact, 61 laps of racing. New Hampshire known as the Magic Mile. That one extra lap, who knows? By the end of the day, that could be very, very important. One thing I also want to bring up just real quickly too, we talked about Allie Rain and William Brock below the cut line. Well, we could have a bit of a flip reverse as well as far as scenarios here today of a couple more drivers maybe falling outside the top 25 in the point standings. Keep your eyes on Seth Cole and Laura Chung here today, because those two drivers come into this race both less than 10 points ahead of that cut line. They're in 23rd and 24th respectively. So it's quite possible that as we're talking about the limited number of spots for drivers to point their way in, it could increase today if those two drivers have a bad performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, they're starting 13th and 16th respectively. So we'll see if that's kind of towards the forward half of the pack there. So we'll see what kind of run they can get. Starting grid already rolling across your screen as these drivers roll off of pit lane. Now, Seth, we talked about the Magic Mile here. At one point, the NASCAR used to run restrictor plates at this racetrack,
which I find kind of mind-boggling, to be honest, because I don't know how you could carry that much speed into a turn that has so little banking. I mean, that'd be almost like trying to run restrictor plates at Martinsville if it were a slightly bigger racetrack. Giving me a track that's a little bit more banking, like maybe a Phoenix. There's, I guess, enough banking over in 1 and 2 where that would make sense. 3 and 4, those kind of reminds me of the flat banking here in New Hampshire. So I don't know. I guess they made it work, but it doesn't seem like something that would necessarily work in today's day and age.
No, not at all. But that was mainly because of some issues they were having. That was the year 2000. We lost 2 drivers at this racetrack in practice crashes. But we're getting ready. Cody Lamas on the pole. Green flag is out. We're underway.
Keep an eye on Cody Lamas. I mean, this guy's been hot this season. 2 trips to victory lane. Right now, he would be in the 2nd seed of the playoffs if the playoffs were to start now, only to Jonathan Zorlin, and might be able to jump to that number 1 seed if he can pick up win number 3. Bobby Frazier. There we go. James Qualls and Stephen Colon. Oh my gosh, and ARCA brakes here on the back straightaway.
For real, that was arguing over space. We've had more issues. A couple cars going on the apron here. Look at Trent gonna pass a couple cars on the apron there. First caution of the day is out. It didn't take very long at all. Kyle Matthews, we were talking about him before we went on the air, and unfortunately his string of bad luck continues. And look, here's Allie Rain on pit road as well.
Was looking to make her way up into the top 25 after her victory earlier on this season. You also got the 17 back there that was not able to get the car refired. Looks like they're done for the day, not even 1 lap in. But I brought up the fact that this I thought was going to be one of the tracks where track position was so important. That was a battle 3 wide for second that went wrong. So a lot of drivers lost out on their optimal track position there.
And we talked about strategy, pit road strategy. Look at a couple cars already going to come down pit road, and some cars are going to stay out.
I don't get this, to be honest, unless you kind of were working the race from back to front in terms of like fuel windows and whatnot. I mentioned that 1 extra lap at the end of the race. Maybe they're taking that into account. Maybe the fuel window's about 20 laps. So they're thinking that from here on out they can do it on 2 more pit stops. But you're right, varying strategy here in the early going, and look at one of the drivers that did elect to stay out, that 78 of Laura Chung, trying to see if she can maybe get some stage points here at the end of stage 1, build a cushion between herself and that 25th position in points.
I want to say Maddie Crenshaw, too. she stayed out as well. Gonna put her in the top 5. She was starting way back in at least around the 30th spot or so. You say track position is key. Staying out, now she's in 4th place.
Then remember, too, for Maddie Crenshaw, obviously, she wants to go to victory lane. She wants that guaranteed spot in the playoffs. But she's in a good battle right now as well with Anthony McCurry, Cole Baker, Jonathan Zorlin for the overall points lead. And the driver that ends up getting the regular season championship carries bonus points into the playoffs. So that's something I think that with this call to gain track position that she's looking for, try and get some stage points as well for the 7.
Well, Seth, with the amount of time that some of these cars are on pit road, I think they just came in to top off.
Gas and go. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, why would you take the time to maybe have a mistake of changing tires when, you only ran not even half a lap, really, under green flag conditions?
Yeah, well, we do have a couple of cars out of this race.
Oh gosh,
more
what
likely
happened to the 10 and the 11? I don't even remember
think
seeing
they were
them involved in the wreck.
They might have gotten a piece of it. Without doing the whole cutaway thing real quick, we can go back and take a look. It could have been a follow-up accident, or they could have been involved. Yeah, look at the damage on the 10 right here.
Yes, Jessica Shelton, former winner this season, came into this race currently in a playoff position. I believe she is 11th overall in standings, so she could afford a bad run here down the home stretch, but not too many. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to end up being maybe, oh no, not a stack up. Guess they were involved in the wreck.
Yeah, right here, everyone just trying to swerve, and I think she right there runs into the back of RJ Bishop and Semet Ozkin. Same thing. I'll stack up, when there's just not a lot of places to go. It doesn't seem like they're carrying a lot of speed, but when these cars are getting up to speed, it is kind of a little hard for them to stop on a dime.
And remember, too, people are thinking, well, that doesn't look that terribly bad. Why don't they just take off the hood and continue on? You got to remember that with that kind of impact, that can push the radiator in. And a track like this, especially with the low RPMs that are turned through these corners, you absolutely need to make sure that thing's not overheating. So that's a tough break there for both Shelton and Semet Ozcan. I mean, really surprising there, too, that we didn't see as many drivers get on the brakes when that wreck occurred ahead of him. But at the same time, I'm not really certain that anybody back there fully expected we were going to have a wreck on lap number 1.
Yeah, for real. And, we're just getting the 1 to go now. So James Moore, Semet Ozkin, and Jessica Shelton, who has the win she has the win, and I believe she's actually was still pretty high in the points, so I guess that's a good thing for her.
Right now. I don't think she's in a danger zone going into next week. Now, can she afford back-to-back bad races? No, I don't think so, but with where she's positioned in points, and as you mentioned, having that win, I think she's okay with this DNF to still be in the conversation for a playoff position.
So here we go, as they're getting ready for the restart. Matthew Rodriguez is first. Laura Chung second. That's Daniel Voiles third. Madeline Crenshaw in fourth. Then the drivers that pit the topped off pretty much. You got Cody Lamas, Charlie Buxton, Jose Mills, Nick Gunther, Cole Baker, and Christina Bell rounding out your top 10. I'm interested to see if Matthew Rodriguez can, I feel like he's got a strong car. He obviously he started up towards the front. So we'll see what happens. Kyle Matthews being the lone lap car right now. We'll see if he's even up to speed. It looks like they got that car pretty much repaired.
If he is up to speed here, yeah, not able to really get up through the gears.
Oh no, not at all.
Going into to turn 1.
We'll see who he holds up and for how long he holds them up too. We'll see. Maybe he just had a bad.
That's his teammate right behind him, Cody Lamas, the pole setter.
I'll say maybe he just had a bad restart, but we'll see because look at the car is trying to go up and look at. Oh, Madeline said, "You're not holding me up," and then Jose Mills decided the same thing.
But you can see right there, these drivers are really fighting for grip. Could see them feathering the throttle, utilizing the brake. Jose Mills on the inside line was pushing up about a quarter of a groove. Madeline Crenshaw was pushing up a quarter of a groove as they were taking Matthews 3 wide. They're still 3 wide there. Christina Bell in the 77.
Got to keep an eye on this 3 wide. Sometimes they can get away with it, sometimes they can't.
There's Jonathan Zorlin, the 41, making his way by. Right now holds the number 1 seed. Looks like they're all making it through pretty well. I'm seeing some nice room being given in those 3 wide situations.
Especially after the first lap.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, up here, look at Cody Lamas. Ooh, overdrove the corner a little bit. He almost got into the back of the 62 of Voiles.
This is a rhythm track, and yeah, that's one thing right there. If you take the corner way too fast and the car ahead of you doesn't go if not the same speed, maybe a little bit faster. When you jump on the brakes, the car's not gonna turn. You saw there with Llama sliding up about a full groove. The front end of the car pointed straight, the front tire is locked up, and that's gonna cost you if everybody else behind you is able to hit their marks.
Now, I want to tell you, now I want to say something that I kind of noticed in practice with a lot of these drivers. A lot of them ran long green flag runs, like, or, doing their testing for fuel or whatever. But what I noticed too is old tires versus new tires. Like, the leader, you can hold off with good on old tires. It's not a big thing here. But new tires, though, if you hit your marks right, you can catch somebody in a hurry. Not only that, but I mean, I've seen like how Matthew Rodriguez is kind of pulling away a little bit. The 78 could be saving her tires.
Could indeed be saving her tires, you're right. The one thing you don't want to do, though, if you're Laura Chung, is you don't want to let the 66 get too far away. The reason being, if we get into a round of green flag pit stops, having that gap behind him, that gives Matthew Rodriguez a little bit more leeway of how aggressive he might be able to be getting onto pit road. So you kind of want to force the hand of the 66 here if you are the 78, just in case we end up having this long green flag run. But it's interesting you brought up the fact of being able to hold people off on the old tires. That's because of clean air being so important here. I go back to what we saw happen with Cody Lamas when he was trying to get that third position from Daniel Voiles and went up the racetrack. The reason that he had such a good run going into turn one was he was able to get a little bit of a toe. It's not a super long straightaways here at New Hampshire, but it's enough that you can be able to get a little bit of draft and generate a run. And if that's the case, you're going into the corner maybe 2-3 miles per hour faster than you originally wanted to. And there you see again, you saw how he was about half a car length off the 62 coming off 4, right on his back bumper going into turn 1. That checkup is going to be something drivers are going to have to deal with during the course of this race when they're battling for position.
Yeah, and especially with how flat there's no banking hardly in any of these turns that could help carry the momentum like you would see at like a Michigan or somewhere where where when you let off the gas to enter the corner, or like a Richmond or something where you let off and you can turn and the banking helps you turn. There is none of that here. You slow down, you turn.
So important because this flat turns, it just wears out those tires, most specifically the right rear.
Once upon a time, Homestead Miami Speedway used to be a flat turn racetrack. Boy, you remember those days.
No, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast today.
Yeah, that's very typical of you. Look at Cody trying to carry the momentum off the high side.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I think that when he was able to hold off Jose Mills for 4th place, he might have found something up there. And if Cody's able to make that high line work, I guarantee you other drivers will take notice of that. Their spotters will make them aware, and we'll see more drivers migrate up there. But it is the longer way around the racetrack, and it is going to wear your tires down more. So it's a bit of a risk reward here if it does pay off in him being able to make a pass for 3rd.
Yep. 1 car lap down, 3 cars out of the race. Coming up to completion of lap 14 here in the first stage. We're going to have 6 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line now. These cars up here are a little impressive. You've got Laura Chung up here running in 2nd place. Voiles right on her back bumper. Now, again, as much as these guys want to have a stage win under their belt, I mean, would you think running 2nd would be good points-wise?
Well, absolutely. For Laura Chung, I think right now for Laura Chung, she's just looking for points. Obviously, she'd love to be able to pick up a 2nd victory, but we mentioned the perilous spot she's in, just barely above that 25th in the standings cut line. She wants stage points. She wants to make sure that she increases that gap. And so I think that's what she's doing right now. If she got to the back bumper of Matthew Rodriguez, honestly, I don't even think she'd force the issue. I think she'd be willing to ride in that 2nd position, pick up those 9 stage points, and then continue on from there.
Look at the run that Cody Lamas got on the outside lane there.
This is impressive. This is really impressive. He has not wavered from trying that 2nd groove. And look at that. Able to get the power down through the center of the corner. He might clear here off of turn 4. 48 was strong in qualifying. Started on the pole position, translating over to maybe being one of the fastest and best handling race cars, at least on the long run here in the race.
Absolutely. But I want to give a shout out to the all-female drivers team of Spire Motorsports. You've got Christina Bell here in the 77 running 7th, and right behind her, her teammate Madeline Crenshaw in 8th.
Christina Bell has had a bit of a struggling year, 25th in points. Had a good run last week, though. Jumped up 6 spots in the standings. We've talked already about Madeline Crenshaw leading the overall points, but Yeah, this has definitely got to be a shot in the arm for Spire Motorsports right now, having both of their Chevrolets up inside of the top 10. And remember, too, that both of those drivers did come to pit road and did top off the fuel tank when we had that caution on the first lap of this race. I believe that Cody Lamas right now is the highest running of the drivers that came to pit lane because he came from the race lead. The 66 and the 78, they'd be about 1 lap shorter on fuel than everybody else. So if we ended up getting into a round of green flag pit stops, they'd be the first ones to make the dive.
Yep, we've got 2 laps left in the state. Oh,
Whoa!
I don't think the 78 thought about that one too much. He did get to the back bumper, but now Cody Lamas is going to try to take advantage of that.
Cody made a pass on the top when he got around Voiles. Now does he have a car good enough to rotate through the center on the inside line? It's super difficult to do on old tires here.
Oh,
Trying to get back to the throttle. He's edging ahead. Wow, that 48's got tremendous center corner power.
Absolutely, but the fastest car on the racetrack, maybe just because he's in clean air, is our race leader right now.
He hasn't had to check up for anybody. He can enter into the corner as fast as he wants to.
True. Now Cody Lamas takes over second place. See if he'll be able to chase down as we're coming to the green checkered flag. Laura Chung looks like she might be able to hold on to third place here. Cole Deaver not going to be a factor to the end of the stage. Coming out of turn number 4, it's going to be Matthew Rodriguez winning stage number 1.
I don't know exactly what the total is of stage wins for that 66, but I remember there was another race that I was here for, Talladega, where Matt Rod picked up a stage victory. So he's done pretty well in racking up those stage points. Matthew Rodriguez right now coming into this race 14th in points, or 13th in points, I'm sorry, had a really big jump in the standings last week from 20th up to 13th. The problem for this 66 is he's been kind of up down in terms of consistency. He'll have a good run, then he has a poor run, then he has a good run, then he has a poor run. He needs to put together a string of 2, 3, 4 good races to get himself up there into the conversation to point his way in. But here today with what he's showing, he might have maybe the second fastest car on the racetrack, because honestly I think that 48 might be the fastest car overall. But if he can keep Cody Lamas and company in his rearview mirror, pick up that victory, then we don't even have to talk about him in points. He more than likely would lock up a playoff position.
Yep, and we're going to step aside, take a quick commercial break, and be right back with more action here at New Hampshire. Welcome back to New Hampshire as Matthew Rodriguez encounters the lapped car of Cole Deaver involved in our first wreck. And whoa, Cole Deaver sent it pretty good in the corners. I guess that's just the inside line there.
I think probably it is. I mean, especially in turn. Well, remember too, Matthew Rodriguez had to take a very shallow entry into turn 3 there to get around Cole Deaver. So Deaver would have had a better entry, even though that car is obviously damaged and off the pace. That, of course, he was involved in that big stack up that took place with the wreck at the front of the field back on the first lap. That was the 14 you just saw there of Allie Rain, and there's Seth Cole there in the 24. Remember, Allie's trying to get into the top 25 in the points. Seth Cole's trying to stay in the top 25 in the points. Not the runs that either of those drivers need right now, especially being in the danger zone.
As well as William Brock in the 47 back here as well. I think Seth might have been involved in that accident.
He was. Yep, he was.
Anthony McCurry went from starting dead last. He's now in the 18th position.
That's impressive. Now, obviously, some of that would have been him being able to get through the initial wreck that we had. Maybe be able to get a little strategy when he came to pit road with most of the other drivers. And maybe even as well, it could have been the opportunity of starting on the inside line and picking up some spots in the early going, the shorter way around the racetrack, because that inside line does actually work when you have fresh tires and have that grip. It's only when those tires start to build some heat and start to wear that you start to see that middle groove, and as we saw there with Cody Lamas, the outside groove actually be utilized to make some passes. I think Matt Rod might be. Well, I thought maybe that lap he was thinking about coming down pit road. I'm amazed the gap he's built back to the 48. Remember I said that Cody was making some really good passes on the outside line there, but he might end up paying for it later with his tires wearing down? I think we're seeing the result of that right now.
Yeah, I believe we are too, and you know, I have no idea when these cars are going to be coming down pit road here. It should be probably here soon, at least the cars that stayed out during the last caution, but I guess we're going to find out. We'll see if they can make it past the stage. I know that if they can make it to the end of this stage.
62 just pit, I believe. Daniel Voiles.
Yep, there it is right back there. 62 Voiles. I saw Crenshaw on pit road. Can't tell who was that in behind her. That's the 41 and the 47.
Orland and Brock as well. Interesting that we ended up having only two drivers that had elected to stay out under the caution that came to pit road. That was the 62 and the 7. 66 here, Matthew Rodriguez. Here he is coming to pit road now. He was another driver that had stayed out along with Laura Chung. They're now both bringing their Fords onto pit lane.
Yep, they're coming down pit road now. Cody Lamas will retake the lead with Jose Mills right behind him. That's another good. This is a good run for Jose. I mean, he's kind of been, you know, he's been in the top 16 in points, and then he's kind of dropped out. So he's trying to get some good consistent runs. And what a way it would be if he were to somehow be able to pass Cody and win this race.
Jose's kind of been in the same type of boat as Matthew Rodriguez. He either does really, really well or he does really, really bad. Of the 3 top 10s he has this season, they've all been finishes inside of the top 5. But he's mired down 29th in points.
Cody Lamas stays out. As we were talking about Jose, he just came down pit road that time.
Allie Rain about to go a lap down here to Cody Lamas. Now, more than likely when Cody comes to pit road, Allie should remain on the lead lap. Looks like Cody's coming down this time. Gotta make sure you get that
and
thing
you heard
down
him
to pit road
aggressive.
speed. This is not an easy pit road to get onto.
You heard him aggressively go down on the gears there, but look at this. This is interesting. Jovan Anderson's going to stay out another lap.
Not sure exactly what the strategy would be here unless maybe you're planning for the last pit stop of the day. You'd have the freshest tires for the shortest run potentially. We were kind of talking during the commercial break of what the fuel window or the pit window is for these guys. Based on them coming to pit road when they did, looks like it's somewhere in the vicinity of 23 to 25 laps, because remember there was about 2 or 3 laps of pacing that we could also add into factoring for the drivers that did not come to pit road since we started this race. So that means that these guys, if they continue on this green flag trend, we'd probably see them making their final pit stop of the day somewhere in the vicinity of 6 to 8 laps to go.
Look at this. Matthew Rodriguez retook the lead, but look at this. This is going to be the battle for second right here, and Jose Mills had a better pit stop, and he's going to get out ahead of the 48.
This says to me that on this upcoming final pit stop, if we do have it under green flag conditions, be sure you're the first one to pit road. Because having the fresh tires, making that out lap is going to be the difference in gaining you position. Rodriguez has increased his gap. Mills leapfrogged the 48. They had both come to pit road before the 48 car did. Now, the flip side of it, we'll have to see if Cody Lamas, with his fresher tires, is going to be able to reel the 18 back in and maybe be able to pass him back for second place. But he's got his hands full right now with the lap machine of Kyle Matthews, and he might have bigger problems because here's the rookie Cole Baker making a move to the inside for third.
Oh, he's going to make it 3 wide.
Whoa!
You see how Kyle gave as much room as he could to his teammate there.
Cole Baker, we talk about him. No wins yet this season, but he's had an incredible rookie year. He's third in overall points. He's only 24 points behind Madeline Crenshaw. The bad news for him right now is, though, while he may be running in 4th, Crenshaw's running in 8th, so he's not going to gain a whole lot of ground on her, but, you know, still kind of keep Madeline Crenshaw within striking distance to maybe get that regular season championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see how the top 10 looks after this round of pit stops here. You've got Matthew Rodriguez leading, Jose Mills now in 2nd, Cody Lamas back to 3rd, Baker here in 4th, Christina Bell in 5th, Laura Chung still in the top 10 in 6th, Daniel Voiles 7th, Madeline Crenshaw 8th, Nick Gunther in 9th, and the caution is out. Let's see, where's the caution?
Did Rodriguez just have left side damage? I think I just saw the leader had left side damage.
Let's see. Well, the caution is
No,
out.
I guess not. All right.
What
I thought I saw like some scrape marks on the left side, and I thought maybe he might have had trouble getting around a lap car.
I wonder if this is like a. I hope this isn't a phantom caution. I don't really see any other than the 22 Henry Sanford.
Blow up.
Let's see. Could he have? I want to see what happened. Oh yeah, he did.
Yep. Car came to a stop on the front straightaway. Officials no choice but to throw the yellow Penske motor going south there off of 4. Oh man, it's the worst place for it to happen too, right? I mean, if it had happened on the back straightaway, he probably could have coasted that thing back around to pit road, but he had just passed pit road entry.
Well, let's see now if everybody can catch up to the 66, because pit road will be open. And Seth, I think these cars might, if they pit right now, could make it all the way to the end.
Oh, it's right on the mark, isn't it?
Oh, look
Literally
at
right
the
window.
gap that Rodriguez has. His team can take all the time in the world. Plus, he has a very early pit stop.
Between himself and Mills.
I see no tires. Gas and go. Oh, but this is going to be interesting. You're going to have cars coming onto pit road. Oh!
Oh, Mills and Jovan Anderson got together.
What kind of damage could that have happened? Or could that have caused right there?
I mean, New Hampshire's not necessarily super dependent on aero, but maybe on the straightaways, but boy, that is going to be interesting to follow. And boy, that cost Mills because he lost a couple of spots there to Lamas.
Oh, he does have damage. You can see the scraped up side.
Yep.
We'll see if the 18 will come back down pit road this time.
And what
Maybe
does that do for the 9 of Anderson? Because that's going to be some pretty good contact to his left front.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have to wait and see. More importantly, I want to wait and see if the stage is gonna end under yellow or not. Because at the end of completion of lap 40 stays to finish to stage number 2.
We might get a 1-lap shootout here in the second stage. Not certain, but we might. Did we have 14? We know got to put a lap down. The 45 get put a lap down? No.
Oh, I think the 45 might have stayed out.
This is interesting.
Yeah, Benjamin Miles, I think, stayed out. Or he got out of pit road way before we saw.
No, he definitely did not pit. Back to the 42 of Bobby Frazier. Those cars did not pit. So look at the top 3 now. You got Miles in the lead. Got the 15 up here in second place now. That's Charlie Buxton, and then you've got
Charles Buxton.
Or Charles Buxton. Well, I mean, we could still call him Charlie. It's still a nickname, right?
No, because his son is named Charlie.
Charlie Buxton.
Miles did this before at a.
In third. Remember Bobby Frazier? Anybody remember Bobby Frazier? Yeah, started up towards the front of the field, was 3 wide for second, and ended up causing the first wreck of the day. And now he's back up here in the top 5.
Good, and maybe he'll cause another wreck.
Oh gosh.
No, I'm joking. What's going to be more interesting is I think the 5 and the 14 are on the tail end of the lead lap, or at least the 14 is. So the 14, who is slow, not really up to speed, as well as the 3 car, they're going to be. I'm not sure. I think the leaders are going to be kind of blocked in here. We might see another incident because while the 3 and the 5 are not up to speed, we know the 14 wasn't really up to speed. And as you can see, they're going to go. Oh, maybe they're all going to go down to the inside there.
Yeah, they have to, unfortunately. Well, actually.
Oh, no, the 14's the tail end.
Yeah, the 14. I was going to say the 14 should be up on the top line there. But you bring up the fact of maybe bringing out another caution. That is exactly what Benjamin Miles, Charles Buxton, and Bobby Frazier want to happen. That's why they have made this call. They want to go into about a 10-15 lap run, have a caution come out, and that will more than likely draw everybody to pit road to try and get Goodyear tires. They're trying to play that gamble. There's no way from this point on that those 3 cars can make it on fuel. It's super borderline for the drivers behind them to be able to make it the rest of the way. So these guys right here, they're banking on a caution coming out within the next 10 to 15 laps. If they don't get that caution, they're more than likely not going to finish where they hope to in this race.
All right, well, we're getting ready for a restart. Seth, you called it a 1-lap shootout to finish out stage number 2. It's going to be Benjamin Miles, Charles Buxton, the 42, Bobby Frazier, Matthew Rodriguez, and others. Green flags out immediately, and the 42 goes to the inside. Oh, he peaks to the inside.
Yeah, that was a good idea to stay up top.
Oh, look at Buxton. Buxton found a gap, but the question is, who's faster, the 3 or the 14?
They're all boxed in, right?
Well, you figure the advantage will go to the inside lane. The 15 might try to make it 3 wide here. Buxton going to try. Look at him, but look at the outside. Oh, my gosh.
We could have ourselves a drag race here.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a drag race. A line of the left cars. The 15's got it, and I think Charles Buxton wins stage number 2. I hate you so much. And now as you see the finishing results, the top 10 right there, they're 3 wide. Oh, I'm going to stick with this real quick before going to break. I think, oh, man, okay. All right, they seem
between Ellie Rain and Cole Baker off turn 2.
They seem to be good so far. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back with more action here at New Hampshire.
Warning. The Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
And we're back here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. This is it, the final run to the finish here. Well, Benjamin Miles ducked to the inside of the 3 of Cole Deaver there and almost right into the side of the 18 car. And Jose Mills with the damage to the left to his right side there. I guess it really doesn't seem to be hindering him too much.
Yeah, at least not in the corners. I'm going to be interested to see when he starts getting into battles with drivers that are on the same set of tires as he is, or at least on the same fuel strategy as he is, if he's going to be able to stay in touch with them. Remember, Benjamin Miles right now, he's about 2-3 laps shorter on fuel than the 18 car. And you saw right there, Miles was able to hold off the 18 of Jose Mills. So I don't know. That, again, it could just be visual damage, but it could be affecting the straightaway speed of that Camry.
Keeping an eye on this whole group back here, 3 wide and others. Crenshaw and Trent Dunham getting held up big time by the 5 of Kyle Matthews.
Remember, Crenshaw was up inside of the top 10 all of a sudden, way back here. Right now, I think at least outside of the top 20.
Crosses the line in 21st.
Yeah, wow.
Well, that's another good thing for Cole Baker.
It really is. It absolutely is.
Not only that, Anthony
in third. So right now,
not only that, but it'll be
points not counted. That'd be what 3 points separation now between. No, that's the 18, 24, 6 points. 6 points separation between Crenshaw and Cole Baker for the overall points lead.
Actually, I think they could be tied with the stage points.
Yeah, I
Give
don't.
or take, I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly all of what the stage payouts were for points wise, but.
Where's Anthony McCurry at? That's what I want to know. Where is he currently running at? Right here. He's in 20th. So.
Yeah, oh wow, that car got really loose there off a turn 2. He did get around Crenshaw, so he's closing up the gap there, but you have to pick up 18 spots on the 7 car, and he's kind of back in the same zip code right now as Crenshaw.
Benjamin Miles getting around Matthew Rodriguez again. We figured Rodriguez would try to power up through. He's been the strongest car, but these cautions have really aided in these top 3 right here.
How about the somewhat lower funded Ford teams here today? I mean, Cody Lamas has seemed to be the strongest car today. That Chevy started on the pole position, but Matthew Rodriguez, when he got out in clean air in that MBM Ford Mustang. He dominated, and now you've got a Rick Ware Racing Ford out in front in Charles Buxton. I mean, it looks like these Fords, they came to play here. They realized the importance of track position. Again, though, Charles Buxton has got that big question mark over his car because he was one of the drivers that elected to stay out under the last caution. I don't see any conceivable way that he's going to be able to make it to the checkered flag without coming to pit road at least one more time.
Well, I think we have about 15 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line here, so we'll see if his car can run. And look at the teammates back here. I almost forgot about that. There are teammates running second and third. Listen, let me tell you something. The entire season, this season of the Budweiser All-Pro Series, these two have been nose to tail for have to be at least 90% of the season. And if that's not really teamwork there, then I don't know what is.
Well, that says to me that they bounce a lot of information off of each other because they're able to race just like each other. And this is interesting, too, if you consider the fact that, you know, we're wondering if exactly right on the mark the drivers that came down topped off the fuel, if they'd be able to make it the rest of the way. With Cole Baker running in the draft of the 42, who we know Bobby Frazier more than likely can't make it the rest of the way, this is offering a little bit of draft, a little bit of an opportunity for Cole Baker to be able to save some. He would, if the 15 and the 42 dive onto pit road, inherit the race lead. So there could be some gamemanship, some teammateship going on right now in trying to help the 43 make it the rest of the scheduled distance.
And that would be good because we all know Bobby Frazier has his win. He got that really bizarre win at the Bristol Dirt Race, and I don't I'm still baffled over that.
That would be 2 Petty GMS cars in the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind if Cole Baker were to win today, he's locked in. I mean, he's third in the point standings. He's got, I think, about a 70.
If he wins today, if
back to 25th in points, I don't see how he'd fall outside the top 25.
I'll say if he wins today, the way we were talking earlier, he could be the new regular season points leader.
He could. You very well could. You're right. He's ended up finishing in the top 10 in both stages. I believe, Crenshaw did not finish in the top 10 at the end of stage 2. She did in stage 1. So yeah, Baker's made up a lot of ground in that regard. He's currently running like about almost 20 positions ahead of Crenshaw right now, and if ends up getting that victory, no doubt would end up kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, jump to the top of the point standings, and pick up his first win on the season.
Coming to 10 laps to go this time by. I guess the big question mark, as we always say, can Charlie, or God dang it, Seth, I hate you. Can Charles Buxton make it all the way on fuel, and let alone the tires?
I don't think he can. I honestly do not believe that the 15, 42, or 45 can make it on fuel. I'll be shocked if they do. If they do, you know, kudos to them. But I just, based off the numbers I've got here, I do not see them being able to make it on fuel.
I'll say when the caution came out, which we found out was for the 22 blowing up here. Oh, I thought there was somebody on the pit road, but it was just a pace car.
Well, that's still somebody.
Yeah. They had just come off of pit road, so as we have a battle for second place now between the teammates here. It's, you know, so I could see why they stayed out, having just come off of pit road. So, but the question is now is if he gets a big enough gap set, maybe he could start saving a little bit.
Problem is with that theory is he's continued to increase his gap. I would be completely on board with you on that if I started to see the interval from first to second start to shrink, but it's actually been increasing. Now, granted, that time it actually was because the 42 and the 43 are battling side by side, so they're not getting the optimal entry into these corners. But even prior to that, the gap was continuing to slightly increase. So that says to me that the 15 of Charles Buxton, he is not saving fuel right now, still in the belief that we're going to have another caution here at some point. It'll draw everybody down to pit road, and he can keep his track position. I'll tell you one other thing I've noticed here, Michael. A car that has suddenly come to life is that 77 of Christina Bell. She just recently got around Cody Lamas for 6th. She's starting to reel in Matthew Rodriguez for 5th. So that car, whatever adjustment they made on it there on that last pit stop, it has become a very good long-run car.
Absolutely, but look, the teammates are still battling. The 43, Cole Baker's trying the inside lane, but the 45 is helping. Oh, look, I just realized, isn't this ironic? The 45 used to be a petty number. I don't know why this just popped into my head, but we have the 42, the 43, and now the 45 that used to be a petty number.
That's
all
true.
Racing together.
That's very true. Gotta be so frustrating for Cole Baker, right? Because we know that he is more than likely the highest running driver that'd be able to make it to the finish on what he's got in the tank. And with him having to battle here with his teammate Bobby Frazier as well as Benjamin Miles, I'm starting to see that gap between himself, Matthew Rodriguez, and Christina Bell shrink just a little bit. Bell's going to go for another spot here. Well, showed the nose anyway. Can she get to the left rear quarter?
Not quite.
No.
Matthew was able to carry a little bit more speed into the corner.
Arced it in, and she had the shallow entry, had to bail out of the throttle. That brings Cody Laws back into the conversation. But these three, the 66, the 77, and the 48, they could start closing in on Cole Baker in what could be potentially the battle for the win here today.
As I've just checked up on here, Madeline Crenshaw has fallen back to the 29th position. So if I'm not mistaken, if this were to end right now, which we are a few laps away from doing so, Madeline Crenshaw will probably lose the regular, probably get knocked back to third, depending on how far ahead Anthony McCurry is from her, but probably second or third at the end of this race.
Yeah, Madeline Crenshaw, if she ends up missing out on making the playoffs, I don't see that happening, but if that is the case down this final 4-race stretch, I guarantee you she
pit
will
stops.
not be...
I think that was the 42 is down.
And the 45. We
The
knew
42 and the 45.
Yep, we knew they couldn't make it. The 15 is also in that same boat.
We'll find out.
I mean, Madeline Crenshaw, let's just document as well. The reason she's as far back as she is, she got trapped behind the 5 of Kyle Matthews on that last restart and couldn't get by him until she was all the way back almost outside of the top.
Here he comes. Cole Baker coming down too. Yes, Baker's coming down. That's going to give Christina Bell the lead.
So maybe everyone can't make it then if the 43's on pit road.
I guess we're going to wait and find out. 2 laps to go.
You know, if indeed everyone can't make it, then what a call by Charles Buxton, because remember what we saw on the first round of green flag pit stops? Drivers that came to pit road earlier took advantage of the fresh tires on the out lap, and they were able to pick up spots. In the case of Matthew Rodriguez, he was able to increase his race lead. That might end up being the end result for the 15, but...
White flag, 1 lap to go.
So guess that's not going to be the case here.
Christina Bell. This is going to be on track for her first win in quite a long time in the Budweiser All-Pro Series.
We talked about that 25th in the standings cut line area, Michael. Guess where Christina came into this race? 25th. Talk about rising to the occasion when the pressure's on.
Coming out of turn number 4 in an impressive run, stayed up in the top 10 all race long. Christina Bell is going to steal a victory here at New Hampshire on fuel mileage.
Madeline Crenshaw, one of the most consistent drivers this season. Who would have thought that her Spire Motorsports teammate Christina Bell would be the first one to victory lane of that team?
And she finishes 24th, so she gained 5 spots with everyone having to come to pit road.
And with Baker coming to pit road there in the closing stages, that helped her out as well to more than likely still keep that points lead going to next week.
Yep, at 29th, she passed him. At least I think. At least I'm going to try to wait to see it once the race is official here.
This says to me, Michael, that they did not get that 43 full of fuel. Because he was one of the drivers that came to pit road under the last caution. And with him having to pit here in the closing stages, well, that's on the fuel man.
Absolutely. Christina Bell going to go to victory lane with that number 77 team as we take a look at the official race results here as soon as I save them. There we go. Christina Bell with the victory. Matthew Rodriguez, a very strong second place, even though I'm pretty sure he was the one who led the most laps today. Jose Mills, third. Cody Lamas, fourth. Nick Gunther, fifth. Daniel Voiles, Nathan Ormond, good runs for them in sixth and seventh. Charles Sanford up to eighth. Laura Chung, ninth. And Jonathan Zorline, who got his first ever career win in the Budweiser All-Pro Series at this very racetrack a couple of seasons ago. Charlie Buxton, go ahead.
I was going to say, of course, we have to remember, too, with Christina Bell winning this race, that's another driver up in the top 25 in points with a race win, making those point spots to get into the playoffs. They're narrowing down again.
Yeah, it really is. That's what makes it so exciting. For all we know, we could have over 16 winners, and far, if you look at it, how many winners we had what?
13 in the first 15 races.
And then what? Now
we're up
7.
to,
Now would be 14.
Yeah.
Yep. So theoretically, if everybody can get inside the top 10 or the top 25 in points, it's going to be a fight for that last spot, I'm telling you. Jovan Anderson, Colin Cropley, Trey Wright, Roberto Crown Jr., Zachary Fitzwater, Dylan Young, Trent Dunham, Reggie Fogelman, and RJ Bishop round out the top 20. Then it's Anthony McCurry, Seth Cole, Stephen Colon, Matty Crenshaw, James Qualls, who started on the outside of the front row today, William Brock, Charles Buxton, Benjamin Miles, Cole Baker, and Bobby Frazier. The teammates that raced together stay together because they finished 29th and 30th respectively. And then the last car on the lead lap, Dylan Poteet.
I tell you what, there's a couple of drivers I want to focus on right now that I think might have done enough to put themselves into playoff conversation points-wise here for these final 4 races, and those 2 drivers are Nathan Ormond and Matthew Rodriguez. Why? Look at some of the drivers that were ahead of them in the point standings. The point standings are still really close, from about 3rd place on down to 15th. You had Dylan Poteet, last car on the lead lap. You had Samet Ozkan, out of the race. You had Henry Sanford, engine expired. You had Jessica Schulten, out of the race. Those were drivers that were around Nathan Ormond, who came into this race in the final playoff position, the 16th seed, and Matthew Rodriguez, who was 13th in overall standings. Those 2 drivers are going to reap some very important benefits here today, and who knows? They may look back at this race as a turning point of them being in the postseason battle for the championship.
That is very true. I'm going to go ahead and bring my list up here as the winners of this race. Christina Bell. That's her first win of the season, and it's been quite a long time. So she's going to be very happy in returning to victory lane here today. That makes her I believe the 3rd woman to win a race this season, because you have Laura Chung and then Henry Sanford.
Jessica Shelton. Okay, so then 4.
Yeah,
Jessica Shelton as well.
That's true.
Honestly, I thought I knew where you were going with that, and then you didn't say Jess's name, you said Henry Sanford's name, so it was a good joke, but you messed up on the statistics.
I did. You know why? Because I was halfway through the list when I said it, and I didn't get down to Jessica's name.
You were just anxious to get to the punchline.
I really was. I really was.
You didn't care what the number was, you just wanted to get to the punchline of that joke.
Well,
so if my calculations are correct, I do believe that Seth Cole did do enough, despite having that damage, to stay above the cut line. Laura Chung obviously did as well, finishing inside the top 10. So add Christina Bell's name to the list. I believe right now you've got a total of... Trying to quickly do the math in my head. I think you've got a total of 12 drivers? Yeah, 12 drivers that are inside of the top 25 in points. That leaves 4 spots right now open for drivers to point their way in. And that's not saying that Allie Rain and William Brock still might not make their way up into the top 25.
No, absolutely not. And if you think about it, we got 4 races left before the playoffs begin. Those races next week, we're heading out to California for some road course racing. We're going to Sonoma, and then we're backtracking all the way to the famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then we head back to the coast, to the West Coast for some racing at the short track of Phoenix, and then rounding out the regular season down at Daytona for the Coke Zero Sugar 400. Seth, thank you so much for joining me, man. This race was all over the place and exciting, and it seems to always happen in my series when you're here.
Yeah, I mean, Christina Bell working some magic here today at the Magic Mile. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see with the storylines we've got coming out of New Hampshire, what's going to happen in those final 4 races and drivers battling for the playoffs. But it's been a lot of fun up here in the booth. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And I got one quick question for you before we sign off. Besides Daytona, out of those other 3 racetracks, where do you think which one do you think is the most wild card?
Most wild card? I think it would have to honestly be Indianapolis. I feel like Indianapolis, it doesn't come down to whether you have a fast race car or not. It comes down to how well you're able to utilize pit strategy, because a lot of times we see those kind of races go into long green flag runs. It's one of the toughest pit roads to get onto, and the field gets spread out usually when you end up making those green flag pit stops. So I think you're going to see maybe a fuel strategy race, much like we saw here today when we get to the Brickyard.
Absolutely. Well, from Michael Norman and Seth Cole, I say thank you guys so much for joining us. The point standings will be up after the outro here at the end of the video, and we'll see you guys next week for some road course racing at Sonoma. For Michael Norman and Seth Cole, I say until we meet again.
Henrietta Sanford.